Hey guys, it's Romero from MMOs.com, and I'll do another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending November 28th, 2016. This is episode number 71 of the recap, and I hope everyone had an awesome Thanksgiving. I spent some time staying with my cousin, which is why I didn't have too many videos this week, but we're back and good to go. The first bit of news this week comes from Kakao Games regarding Black Desert Online. As you probably guessed it, we have another awakening this week. Actually, a double dose of awakenings, as both Musa and Meiwa have awakened. Musa's awakening is a Crescent Blade, while Meiwa's is a Karis Spear. To celebrate Black Friday, they did have a 50% off sale for the game, but this isn't the first time BDO has been discounted, so if you missed it, I suspect they'll do more sales in the near future, especially with the holidays coming up. Also in related BDO news, Japanese publisher of the game revealed some upcoming content updates, including a new Dark Elf class as well as Kama Sylvia, a new area which will be released in 3 parts, sort of like the Valencia update. Keep in mind though, this is all based on previews released by the Japanese publisher, so there's no release schedule available just yet, especially for us in the West. And the video you're seeing in the background is actually the Musa and Meiwa gameplay videos for the new awakenings, and again, those are already out on the Western version. Next up, a bit of news from Master X Master. The game's Titan Runes playtest is officially live, and will be running until November 28th, which is just later tonight. This is actually pretty limited beta as well, because the servers were only on for certain hours, at 1 PM to 9 PM PST for example. And again, the beta is limited too because players can only run Titan Runes, which is a 5v5 map in the game where players compete to capture objectives. I remember doing a first look video for Master X Master a while ago, and I did have a lot of fun with it. It's just a bit odd to see such long delays between the first round of closed beta / alpha testing, and we're still not at an open beta stage or even like a closed beta stage yet, and there is no definitive release date for an open beta just yet either. But with every beta test shows that they are making some progress towards release. I'm hoping to check this one out again in open beta. Next, a bit of fun news for Revolution Online. They released a 3-person new mount called a Hot Air Balloon, so a 3-person flying mount, and it costs a whopping $48.99. Though anyone with a Founders Pack can get it for 55% off. Now, I won't be spending this kind of money on a flying mount in the game, but I am looking forward to Closed Beta 2, which is probably set to begin sometime in December, so I'll check it out then again. But yeah, if you want a flying mount, flying Hot Air Balloon mount, there you go. And moving right along, a bit of news for Albion Online. The game's Fae update is officially live, and it brings with it a large assortment of new features, namely a brand new forest biome, as well as new weapon skills, emotes, and much more. It's been quite a while since Albion Online was first announced, and it is making a steady march towards release. It's making a lot of progress, and I'm looking forward to playing this one on release. And the reason I'm waiting is that the game has undergone so many changes since it was first announced, and even since the first closed beta / alpha began, there's been a lot of changes for Albion Online, which is why I'm waiting till a final release or an open beta before I dive too far into it. Up next, some good news for fans of Soul Worker Online, or those at least looking forward to playing the game. The game's first closed beta testing is drawing nearer and nearer in South Korea. The game will be opening closed beta signups to players on December 1st, and again, that's only on the South Korean version. It's good news because the game was released in Japan, but hasn't made any progress in South Korea or anywhere else until now. So seeing the game being released in Korea or making progress towards release is probably good news for an international release as well. So they're finally pushing the ball. It's a bit odd to see the game released outside of its home market first, and now finally coming to a closed beta in the home market, but I suspect this is good news for an eventual international release. Moving right along, the next big update for Path of Exile is set to launch on December 2nd. It's called the Breach Update and allow players to enter breaches or tears in reality that require them to kill a bunch of monsters or to keep up long enough to earn rewards. So it's basically a challenge system where they can kill as many monsters as possible to get goodies. And along with that, there are also some major performance update to Path of Exile, namely a 64-bit client and DirectX 11 support, as well as a new cloth physics system because they're introducing cloaks to the game as well. Path of Exile has consistently been doing awesome on Steam since its release. It's a great game. If you haven't played it, definitely check this one out. Up next, a quick checkup on EVE Online free-to-play. EVE Online free-to-play launched about 2 weeks ago, and since going free-to-play, the player numbers have definitely improved. The game was averaging about 31,000 players over the last year, and now that the game went free-to-play, it's been hitting about 51,000 peak players, whereas between July and November, it was hitting only about 32,000. So more people are definitely giving EVE Online a chance now that it's free-to-play, and I hope it works out for them. Up next, a bit of news for Conan Exiles. Funcom announced the game will be launching into Steam Early Access on January 31st, so we finally do have a release date for the game, at least an Early Access date. It's an open-world survival game based on the Conan franchise. It'll be launching on Xbox One as well, so it'll be console as well as PC. The Xbox version, though, will not be available at the same time as the PC version. There'll be a preview available for that sometime in the spring. There'll be a mix of PvP and sandbox elements, which makes me think it's a lot like Rust, at least from the trailers and the gameplay I've seen so far. But yeah, visually it looks great, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. I suspect it will be a buy-to-play title though, as most of these games typically are. Though the page did say pricing will be announced later, so we don't know just yet. Next up, MMOs Online Season 11 Part 2 just went live this last week as well, introducing several major socket system updates. The changes make it relatively easier for the Lancer and Rage Fighter to find socket items in the game, as well as a new ability to actually zoom in the game if you want to. Given the excitement around MMOs Origin and MMOs Legend, it's good to see MMOs Online not being neglected by WebZen, as it's steadily still getting their updates. It's not too surprising though, because MMOs Online is still WebZen's biggest moneymaker, though I suspect MMOs Legend will do quite well. Next up, while we have no news about the Western release of Blessed, we have the Russian open beta set to begin on December 8th. So the Russian version is moving along with the release date of December 8th. Unfortunately, again, nothing on the West. Area Games has left us in the dark for the most part. All we know is that the Western version is quote-unquote reworking its combat system, and that's all we know. Though with the open beta rolling around for the Russian version, we don't know if it's IP blocked just yet, but even if it is, you can still use a VPN to check it out. And I'm sure there'll be an English patch pretty quickly. Right along, ArenaNet announced this last week that Guild Wars 2 Living World Season 3 Episode 3 A Krakened Ice is officially live as of this last week. Players can now venture into a brand new map in the northern Shiver Peaks known as Bitterfrost Frontier. So it's a brand new map for players to explore. On top of that, there's a new 5-player Nightmare Fractal called the Tower of Nightmares, which is a brand new dungeon for players to tackle. Additionally, Guild Wars 2 has been doing a pretty big sale for Black Friday, which is now already over. It was 50% off, but I do suspect Guild Wars 2 will have more sales in the near future, especially with the holidays just right around the corner. Moving right along, we have Romeros Aftermath, which is set to shut down on December 24th. So yes, Free Reign Entertainment is shutting down their Romeros Aftermath game, which is just another almost like a cheap attempt to monetize on the whole zombie apocalypse style game. However, their other title, Shattered Skies, will continue to live on, so you can still play that one. Rest in pepperoni, Romeros Aftermath. Moving right along, in some better news, Hyper Universe is set to begin its open beta in South Korea. It's a side-scrolling MOBA that Matt has actually played quite a bit of and talked about in the last episode of the podcast. It had 2 days of pre-OBT, and now it is live in open beta, and hopefully it does come to the West because it does look pretty cool. Especially since we've seen so many MOBAs already, but this one actually looks a little bit different. The fact that it's side-scrolling and actiony does help differentiate it from other titles. But unfortunately, there is no plans to release it in the West yet. We've heard of nothing just yet, but it still might happen. We just have to wait. Up next, a new 30-player raid will be going live in Tera on November 30th as part of the Fang and Feather update, which we talked about last week. It basically revamps the Archer class. But the folks at Inmass did release a new video showing off the brand new 30-player raid called Herahold, and you have an awesome giant monster to fight, giant dragon actually, and players are barely the size of the dragon's toenail, so it does give an epic sense of scale to the encounter. And again, all of this will be going live on November 30th, along with the revamps to the Archer class, as well as a bunch of other tweaks. It is the Fang and Feather update, so read the full patch notes on their site. Next and last bit of news this week is a bit of a sad one actually, one we forgot to cover earlier. Pangya is officially shutting down on December 12th, 2016, after being in service since back in 2005, so it's one of the longest running free-to-play games and one of the first free-to-play games I've played after MapleStory. But it is set to shut down, unfortunately. It came back out in 2005 as Albatross 18, through OG Planet, and then SG Interactive took control of it in 2009, and it ran for such a long time. It is still possible that Red Fox Games or Suba Games or Game & Game will pick up the service at a later date. We don't know just yet. All we know is it is shutting down. Those that want to play golf games can still check out Shot Online or Winning Putt or even Eagle Fantasy Golf on mobile. But rest in pepperoni, Pangya. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO News this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.